Welcome back, my fellow game developers. In this video, when we run the game, you'll see we have lots of errors. We don't fix all of them, but we fix most of them. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up the shotgun, pick up some coins, get hit by the spikes, go through the door, go through this portal. And there you go, you can see that I'm on the other side with my shotgun, with my pistol, with my health, but it's not visible because we haven't tweaked those things. But if we go to Doom Player, scroll down, you'll notice we had 500, we got hit by the spikes, and it's 490, even though we didn't do anything. So let's not waste any more time, and let's get started. The things we learn in this video are very important, a bit cumbersome, but very important. So let's get started. Okay, so currently we can go from level to level. We have options where we choose one of the random levels that we have. Obviously, there are a couple of things that we will need to tweak with the appearance of the door and disappearance and so on. I feel there is still a bit of tweaking left, but there is a even greater problem, and that is once we pick up the coins, the weapon, and get hit by these spikes or something. Let me show you. When we pick up the shotgun, pick up some money, get hit by the spikes, there you go. So you can see our life is 4,500. We go to another level, maybe this will be, and you can see right now, where is the player? If I look on the Doom player, he's detached, he's not there. So you can see that his life is back to 50. If I try to choose the shotgun, I cannot. And there you go, you can see that the coins are 0, and that is something that we will want to change to make sure that our player actually keeps everything with him as he goes through the level. So let's go ahead and just do that. So I'm going to open up my scripts in here, and I'm going to go to the player controller. Scroll up. And what we want is, obviously, we want to keep our weapons from level to level and the health of the player. So to keep that, we need to make sure that we do not destroy the player. We can save it on some other object or somewhere in the project, but obviously there is the problem with loading a new scene, which resets everything. So what I'm going to do is, in here, I'm going to create a public static player controller, and it's going to be the instance. And in the instance, I'm going to create a private, or you know what, let's just write awake. And in here, I'm going to say that the instance is equal to this. And then in here, I'm going to don't destroy on load, and it will be this. So if I save this and hover over on the don't destroy load, you can see that do not destroy the target object when loading a new scene. And that's exactly what we want. So what will happen now, the object or the player, in our case, will keep everything that he had with him from scene to scene. It will not be destroyed, it will not be reinstantiated, but there is the problem that the start will not be called again. So we will not be setting the main camera. We will keep the player animator, but the main camera will change, and you'll see that this will produce a lot of errors that we will fix as we move on. But for now, understand the don't destroy load and what it does. Now I'm going to go back in here, and if you look at the where is it, the room, the portal, I've changed the portal 1, which is this one, to go to level 4, so we can go to the cowardly. And let me just go to the scenes, because I was trying something out and I turned off the Doom player in here. So there we go, let me turn him on. Let's save that, and let's go back to, wait for this to load, any day now. Save that, back to, where were we, the Skellies, were we at Skellies? Yep, we were at Skellies, so save that. And you'll notice in the hierarchy right now, and Unity, the new update, sorry, it's terrible. So in the hierarchy, you'll notice that we have the Don't Destroy tab, and it has the Doom player under it. So I'm going to pick up the shotgun, pick up the bitcoins, get hit by the spikes, open up the door, move to level 4, and there we go. And you can see that now I am here, but the problem is, you can see a player down and a player up here. So now we have two players. One of them has a shotgun, the other doesn't, and you can see we have a ton of errors in the console. So I'm going to open up the console, I'm going to pause the game, and first of all we have the Doom player in here. This is a debug I was trying. Let me delete this. You'll see what I mean in just a bit. I'm going to delete this. Next we will have this error right here, which is okay, so this is the problem with the door. We will fix this in the later video. And then finally we have the object of type camera has been destroyed. You are still trying to access it. So I'm going to double click in here, and it's the main camera, and it's exactly what I told you about. So now that we know that our player is transitioning, and we can see right here in the scene, if I click on the Doom player, which is the Don't Destroy, we have two Doom players, so we'll have to fix that. But one of them still has the shotgun, so technically he will be able to move with that shotgun. And if I look on the Doom player, scroll down to his health, and you can see that his current health has also transitioned. Unfortunately, there is still the problem of the bitcoins, but we will fix that step by step. Let's first of all start off with managing the double player standard. So this is something that we will need to address. And how are we going to address this? Well, there is a very nifty trick that we can use, which is called a singleton pattern. Let me show you using code what that is, and then we will explain. So first of all, in here on awake, instead of immediately setting the instance, I'm going to say that if we don't have an instance, so the instance is, if we already have an instance, so it's different than null, and the instance is different than this, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to destroy this game object. So what am I doing exactly in here? I'm going to check as soon as we awake. Is the instance different than null? So that means if the instance is not null, I'm going to destroy the game object. But there is another thing. If the instance is different than this. So what I'm doing in here is I'm starting the game off. I'm checking if we either have an instance already or the instance is equal to this game object. I'm going to destroy this game object. And this will ensure that we, first of all, don't create a second instance of this game object. And second of all, we don't duplicate the object that is already in here. So if we go to a new scene and we find that we have a game object, it will be destroyed immediately. But else, in case we don't have an instance, so we're starting the game all over again, or when we start a new scene and there is no instance that is equal to this, then I'm going to say that instance is equal to this. So this will just create a new instance, and this will make sure that we do not have two instances or that there is already one available. So I'm going to save that, and I'm going to demonstrate how this will work. And buckle up, because we will have many errors, and I was testing this out to make sure I can properly manage everything. So I pick up the coins, I get hit for 90, open up the door, and I'm going to hit the portal, move away from it, and there we go. So you can see right now I don't have a Doom player. The second Doom player has been destroyed. That's because it checked and it's awake. Is there an instance? Is instance different than null? Yes, it was. And is instance equal to this? Yes, it was. So we are going to go ahead and destroy. So back in here, you'll see that we have only one Doom player, which has a shotgun. He can shoot, he cannot point, and he cannot change his weapon. But he does have the shotgun. He is animating, everything is working. And you'll notice that he is in the same position that he was in the previous scene, and that's because he will actually keep that with him as he moves. So you'll notice that when I entered the portal, I then moved away because I didn't want to stay in that portal. So with that information out of the way, let's see what errors we have in here. So I'm going to pause because there is a lot. So first of all, you'll see the problem with the camera, which we will fix in just a bit. You'll see that we have a problem with the cowardly enemies. They are trying to find the object, which is the player, but they simply cannot. Not only that, it's telling us that the object transform has been destroyed, but you are still trying to access it. What do they mean by that? Well, as soon as they came into this world, they saw the little Doom player that was here initially, and then when the scene started, he got destroyed and they were still trying to access it. And if we double click in here, you'll notice it's right here on the player chase. So the whole problem is with the player chase. Obviously we will be fixing that also. The camera will be fixed, and finally this one, the problem is also here in the player that game object active and hierarchy. So all of this will be fixed in just a bit. So I'm going to unpause this and let's handle the problems one at a time. So stop this, open this up, did the game start? Nope. So open the scripts up, and what shall we do first of all? First, I think let's handle the problem with the main camera. So if we go to the player controller, where we use the main camera, let's double click on main camera and scroll down, see where we use it. We use it, there we go, in the pointing the gun. So in here, I'm simply going to check if the main camera is equal to null. That means we don't have a camera. I'm going to say that main camera is equal to camera.main, and this will only happen once we check, is the camera null? That means we don't have a reference. If it is, then we will set the main camera again. If not, we will just continue on regularly with the pointing gun at most. So back in our game, we'll run the game, we'll take up this one, we don't need anything else. We will go through this, and on the other side, we shall see in the scene, there you go, you can see that I'm able to point this out, but obviously there is the camera in the game mode isn't focusing on the player, and this is something that we will obviously need to fix. So let's get to fixing. I'm going to go into my scripts, and in here, where shall we call this? Where should we call this? Let's see, where did we put the shake camera? Where is it? Can we know? Well, we don't. You know what? Let's just go into the scripts and put it inside of the managers. Managers. There is no managers. Okay, so managers. For some reason, oh, cameras. There we go. So in the cameras, I'm going to create a camera control or cam controller. Hit enter, wait for it to compile. Double click in here, and I'm going to do a couple of things. So I'm always doing a couple of things. So what are the things that we are going to do? First of all, what we want to do in here is always find the player target automatically. So previously what we used to do is if we went into the camera right here, into the virtual cam, we set the follow player. And the problem is when we go to a new world, let me show you in details, should have shown you before. So if I, for example, here I have the Doom player, I click on him, he's in the hierarchy, I open up the door, I go to another level, and you'll notice right now if I open up the cameras again, which are exactly the same, the virtual camera, you can see that the follow is missing. So there is no player. Why? Because we have set the player before, but now he was destroyed, he's missing, so we need to find him all over again. So in here, I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to create a variable, which is the player to chase, which is obviously going to be, let's see, the transform, or you know what, let's just make him the player controller, player to look at, and he's going to be equal to find object of type, the player, oh, no, not here. Close this down. In start, we are going to say that the player to look at is equal to find object of type, and it's going to be the player controller. Now we have a reference to the player controller. Let's also create a virtual camera. So Cinemachine virtual camera. Also in here we need to double and let's see, using Cinemachine. There we go. Save that. So Cinemachine virtual camera, thank you, is going to be the virtual camera, and we're going to set it in here as soon as we start. So it's going to be equal to get component. And where are we in here? Where should we attach the cam controller? We might want to attach it in the, we will attach it to the virtual camera so we can immediately access the Cinemachine virtual camera in here. So get component, and it's going to be the Cinemachine virtual camera. There we go. And what are we going to do in here? Well, we are going to set the virtual camera dot follow to be equal to the player to look at dot transform. So this will be at the start, but in update we will need to create a while loop. So we've covered already while loops, and it's going to be checking for the player to look at while he is equal to null. That means we haven't found a player yet. We are going to keep searching for the player to look at, keep finding the player controller until we finally find him. Once we find him, if we do have a virtual camera, so this is just an extra step to avoid any errors, the virtual camera dot follow will be equal to the player. We will save that, and let's look again once what we did. So first of all, we created the player controller, which is a variable that will look at, or player to look at, which is a variable of the player controller. A virtual camera, these are all private. We can name them private. I just didn't have the time. You know what, let's just make sure that we don't have any confusions in here. So private, because we won't need them in the inspector. We can set them if we want, we don't have to. Then in start, we are going to find the player controller. This is just in case we start off and we have the player in the scene. Then we find the camera. Then we set the follow cam to be the player to look at. We will have only one player in any scene because we've already made sure of this right here in the Singleton pattern. There we go. This is called the Singleton pattern. Keep it in mind. Whenever you tell it to somebody, they will think that you're very smart. Trust me. Even though it's Singleton means a single object. So just in case they ask you what is a Singleton pattern. Anyways, the virtual camera.follow, we follow the only player that we find. And then an update, just in case, this is for let's say the player which doesn't get destroyed usually loads before all the other objects. So just in case we start off the game, we don't find the player immediately, he is missing, we cannot set him as follow. Then in update we will keep looping through until we find the player. We check if we have a virtual camera. This is just an extra step. I don't think we will need this not even once, because we will be attaching the script to the virtual camera. But just in case there isn't a virtual camera, we will check a condition and then we will set the virtual camera.follow. So save that back in here. Let's go ahead and so the cameras, let's see, shake cam, nope, not the shake cam, the cam controller to the virtual camera. And for some reason I can see that this is not a prefab. Why is that? Did I unprefab this? So in the prefabs, where is it? Weapons, UI, portal, level objects. Is it here? Nope. Okay, so I can see I did not prefab the cameras. For some reason I thought I did. But anyways, let's just prefab the cams in here. And you can see that the virtual camera will have the cam controller. So save that. Let me go to the other level. I'm not going to do this to all the levels. I'm just going to do it with the ones that we're testing and fix everything. And it will probably be the same. So cameras in here, I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to go back to the prefabs and make sure I add the cameras in here in the hierarchy. Save all of that. Open this up. Okay, everything seems to be good. Back in the scenes, back in the skellies. Save that, run the game, go to the door, open it up, move to the next level, and we should see, there we go. So we again found the player and now the cameras are working perfectly fine. Great. So now with that out of the way, if we look back in the console, we still have the problem of the player getting chased, not being found. And because I see that this video has been already going long enough, I'm going to pause it right here and then we're going to continue on in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed. This is a bit of a boring subject, I know, but at least you learned what a singleton pattern is. You understood why the camera was not going. I am trying to explain as much as possible, even though it's very boring, but I want you to understand how everything is feeling. At first I was also confused, but as I went through everything, I understood the things and I wanted to pass them on to you. So with that out of the way, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.